Open session. Can we all stand for the pledge, please? Student Member Castillo, would you like to lead us?
Sure. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, with regards to closed session actions, just wanted to call out that Member Gutierrez and Member Rodriguez and Member Rodriguez joined by phone as agendized into closed session, and there are no other reportable actions. So next item is student reports.
Yes, if we could have our junior high student representatives come forward.
Hello and good evening, everyone. My name is Prajeet Moody, and this is Gavin Small. We are both leadership students at North Junior High School. This month, we have many events planned at the junior high. To begin with, we are selling Valentine Grams, which are Valentine-themed candy grams for anyone you want. Also, this week is Spirit Week. Monday was Meme Day. Tuesday was Character Day, where you dress up as a character from a book, movie, or game. Wednesday was Squad Day, which is like Twin Day, except it's with as many friends as you want. Today was Throwback Day, where you wear clothing from the 80s, 90s, or early 2000s. Tomorrow is Pajama Day. Today, the boys' soccer team played against Leon Veracruz Middle School and won 7-0.
Yay!
Finally, Pennies for Patients is this month. Pennies for Patients is a 3-week-long fundraiser for Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. The goal of the fundraiser is to raise money for blood cancer patients in the Bay Area, to fund treatment and find new cures. Students can also earn prizes from raising money. Thank you for your time and have a great evening.
Thank you so much for being here.
And I'm not sure, do we have a representative from the McGregor campus this evening? Okay, and then so we'll take it away, Mr. Castillo.
Thank you, Superintendent Salinas. So, notably, ASB completed our election week. Elections were held on the 31st of January. I'd like to take a moment now and list all the officers elected. So for the rising sophomores, class of 2023, President Leslie Hernandez, Vice President Alma Franco, Secretary Diego Torres, Treasurer Josue Romo, and Historian Janelle Navarreal. For the rising juniors, the class of 2022, President Ryan Armijo, Vice President Garrett Schetzel, Secretary Angie Dela Cruz, Treasurer Amber Nolasco Torres, and Historian Jasmine Urena. For the rising seniors, the class of 2021, President Lauren Babich, Vice President Rochelle Martigui, Secretary Sophia Angelo, Treasurer JC Moriguchi, and Historian Kamini Huang. Our ASB officers are President Ethan Inocencio, Vice President Dana Prudente, and Student Board Member Wahab Salemi. I'd like to personally take a moment and congratulate all of these officers. They've run a very hard campaign. There were 900 ballots cast from 3 classes. That's an uptick of, I don't know, it's like 50%. Only like 500 people voted last year. So we're glad to see more participation and more turnout, and I wish them nothing but the best next year. Another ASB news, the Sadie's Dance is on Valentine's Day next Friday. That's from 7 to 10 p.m. The food fair is going on tomorrow at lunch, so there will be a bunch of clubs selling food. Lunch begins at 12:15 p.m. If any board members want to purchase tickets to purchase food, you can see Ms. Destuit in the finance office, and she'll be more than happy to sell some to you. The boys soccer team senior night is tomorrow against American High School. The JV begins at 4 p.m. and varsity at 6. Varsity squad currently has a 9-0-1 league record, so they're doing extremely well this season. Girls soccer senior night is next Thursday, February 13th against Kennedy. JV begins at 4, varsity at 6. Boys basketball is currently playing an away game against Monroe Catholic. Their senior night is on Saturday against American High. Play begins at 10:30 a.m. with the freshman squads. Girls basketball is playing a home game against Monroe. Their senior night's on Friday on Valentine's Day. against Kennedy. So JV starts at 5 and varsity at 6:30. Spring sports are going to kick off on Monday, February 10th, for official practices. On Saturday, the 25th of January, the athletics department did their 5th Ring of Honor induction ceremony. So we had 4 inductees. Tom Breen graduated from Newark High School in 1968. He got all-league in football for 2 of his 3 seasons and ran track for 3 years. Afterwards, he came back to Newark High in 1973, and as a teacher and a coach, he led the badminton team to 8 consecutive MVAL championships from 91 to 98, and he's currently our league commissioner. Wayne Miller graduated from Newark High School in 1969. He got the all-league distinction for baseball in his senior year. Afterwards, he was drafted by the Detroit Tigers in '69, and then St. Louis in 1970. Afterwards, he signed with the Dodgers and played AAA ball. Patty Schott graduated from Newark Memorial in '83. She played 4 years of varsity basketball and soccer. Got most valuable player for basketball for 3 of her 4 seasons, and softball MVP in softball for 2, and got various awards from newspapers and all Northern California second team for softball in '83. And then Ken Temple graduated in '94. He was the league champion for the 500-meter free, 100-meter breaststroke, and 200-meter individual medley. And then in 2000, he did the Olympic trials for the 200-meter butterfly, the Sydney Olympics. Athletics is going to be having its Crab Feed fundraiser. I believe you all got flyers. That's going to be Saturday, March 14th, 6 p.m. at Swiss Park. Tickets are $50. They can be purchased from Coach K, from any athletic coach on campus. And then, as I mentioned last month, the Special Olympics are going to be on February 21st. That's going to have over 350 athletes from Newark, Fremont, and Union City. Starts at 9:30 a.m. in the event center. We'll have a parade of athletes, the Special Olympic oath, and a torch run, and then we'll kick off our various basketball games in the event center and in the old gym. And then the Student Athletic Advisory Council held its 2nd annual joint session with other athletic advisory councils from across the league. This is the first year where they've had all eight MVAL schools participating. They had guest speakers from a couple different organizations talk to them about leadership within sports. Everyone who I've talked to that have went said it's been very good, that they have a lot of new concepts and practices that they're going to be taking back to their teams. So lots of good stuff happening. And I believe that's all I've got at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you. We don't have a spotlight presentation this week, so we will have one at our next meeting on February 20th. Item number 9, public comment on non-agenda items. Miss Cindy Parks.
See Rachel Broom's getting ready to come in right behind me. Good evening. This week, there was a parent that posted on the Newark Memorial PTSA Facebook page. That parent posted, was pretty shocked when my 9th grader came home and told me her PE teacher was out and there was no sub. Is this actually normal these days? Because everyone I've asked who attended other school districts are looking at me in disbelief. On January 22nd, I sent an email requesting an item be placed on the agenda. The item I request to be placed on the agenda is reconsideration of the 2019-2020 certification or certificated substitute rate. Back in May of last year, when the LCAP met, the LCAP committee determined that they felt that $180 was the right salary to be paying the guest teachers. They recognized the fact that your surrounding districts were paying more, Fremont substantially more. The committee voted to pass on to all of you $180 for the daily sub rate. The LCAP that came to you in June was approved by you with $180 within it. What came to you on August 15th was an item on the agenda to set the guest teacher rate. Unfortunately, I missed seeing that on the agenda, otherwise I would have addressed it at the time. I did address that with you on October 2nd, at your October 2nd meeting. Brought that to your attention that the rate was wrong. but nothing had been done since then, which is why I asked for an item to be placed on the agenda. Your board policy states that that I'm to do that 2 weeks prior to the scheduled meeting date, and because if I don't, that it may be postponed to a later date. My request was to you by January 22nd, hence it should have been on the agenda for today. Be that as it may, my request is that you honestly look at paying the teachers $180, which is what the LCAP bridge money was supposed to do. Originally, the amount was set at $300,000. It was dropped to $140 because only $33,000 was spent last year. So the $140,000 is sitting there, not being spent at the proper rate that you had approved in June, the $180. Currently, Fremont just upped their rate. They ended their salary, was revised as of January 1, and on January 1, they don't pay $180, which is where we're supposed to be. They actually are going to be paying $184.14. We pay $200 for a long-term sub. Their long-term sub rate is $235.08. So you're substantially underrating, which leads to situations like this. But what ended up happening, my understanding is that the two other coaches or two other PE teachers took that class. But then you're over the 45 student maximum. You're not fulfilling the needs for subs. You have professional development that your LCAP says that you're going to offer to your teachers that have not been offered because you can't get subs. You have teachers that are having to give up their prep to be able to fill your sub. You're not adequately staffing. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Parks. Superintendent Salinas, can you just address that item?
Yes, as shared at our agenda review, when we do receive a request, so we have agendized it, we're working on a presentation to give an update and give some clarity around that, because it does mean that there's a lot of confusion as to the actual rates of pay. So that will be coming back.
Thank you very much. Ms. Rachel Bloom.
Hi, so I'm Rachel Bloom. Yesterday I was a substitute teacher in a first grade class. I didn't teach science yesterday. Great time. All right, so finally, comment on non-agenda items. I finally get to talk about what I want to talk about, and so I'm going to use my time to make a request. And my request is, please stop congratulating Graham Elementary School on their standardized test score increase. People at the district level have congratulated us. The staff members were even treated to breakfast as a thank you for our hard work. I want all these accolades to stop. Here's why. Last year, we had one more classroom teacher than we had this year. We had 2 4th grade classes, 2 5th grade classes, and 2 6th grade classes. That left us with 4th grade classes that were abnormally small and quite instructionally effective, about 24 to 26-ish kids each. Last year, we had a bilingual aide who worked with the teacher during flex time to provide more targeted small group instruction. Last year, we had an ELD intervention specialist at our site from the first day of school until the last day of school. Last year, our librarian's hours were increased so she could help with flex time. So you're probably aware what flex time is. It's our time in our day where the students are divided up into groups for differentiated instruction and intervention. If you were to ask a Graham staff member why our scores increased so much, most would probably tell you our scores increased because of our small targeted flex groups. Small 4th grade classes, due to the extra classroom teacher, plus an intervention teacher, plus a bilingual aide, plus a librarian, meant smaller class sizes. That meant our lowest group had 10 students in it. 10. Now with 10 kids, you can get stuff done. That is a reasonably sized intervention group. So this is the situation we have this year. This year we have crowded, jam-packed 4th, 5th, and 6th grade classes. The district took away an FTE. So this year we have 2 4th grade classes, 1 5th grade class, 1 5-6 combo, and 1 6th grade class. This year we still have the same awesome bilingual aide. This year our intervention ELD specialist left on maternity leave, and the position wasn't filled until right before winter break. And this year our librarian's hours were cut, so she can't help with flex time anymore. Last year, our staff got together and requested that site funds be spent on mental health services for our students and improving flex time staffing by having me at Graham full-time. With me at Graham full-time, I could teach my science classes to give teachers prep, and I could also take flex groups, both with the primary grade flex and during upper grade flex time. This year, our smallest intervention group is almost twice as large as last year's smallest intervention group. We have flex group classes of 32 and 33 students. So had management made the decision to keep our librarians' hours the same, and had management approved me staying at Graham full time, we could have maintained smaller intervention groups. Now our groups are huge. Anyone with half an ounce of sense would know better than to staff at those levels, especially with all the growth we're showing. So please, to all district level, stop congratulating Graham on its test score increase. It is so insincere to congratulate us on something that we won't be able to replicate because of decisions the district level made.
Thank you. Can you close out
All
the
right,
comments,
yeah,
please?
thank you. It's disingenuous to congratulate us because of for our scores due to our flex program increasing, the cut to our librarians' hours, denying our request to have me there. So please just stop congratulating us. We were cut off.
Thank you for your comments. Prajeet? I was going to try to pronounce your name and last name, sorry.
I just wanted to say that I don't know if this is the time because I don't know if it was on the agenda or not, but the teachers, they really need their pay raise because the market for like the houses in this area, the Bay Area, is already unaffordable. It's hard to live here. And the teachers, they're not getting a raise and pricing for the houses is going up. We have excellent teachers at the junior high, and if we can't keep them, then we're going to end up with larger class sizes, with newer teachers who can't replicate the same things that our teachers from before could. So we need that, if we really think that Newark students deserve the best, we need to be able to give them the resources they need in order to, what's the word? The resources they need to succeed. And without these teachers that we have right now, who are doing perfect, it's going to be hard for us to really have the best. So I'm just going to say that we need to raise the teachers' salaries so that way they can stay and they don't move because we're losing a lot of great teachers and that they can benefit all the students in the area. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your comments. Moving on to item number 10, Superintendent Report.
So good evening, members of the board, community. During this time, I do want to highlight some of the work that we're doing and the work that highlights of going forward. So I first want to talk a little bit about college and career readiness. As you know, that's one of our dashboard indicators, and we're doing a lot of work in that area. But I wanted to highlight some of the things happening at the high school and some scholarships that are available. So open invitation to all families. You don't have to have a student at the high school. It could be someone at junior high. If you want to learn more about financial aid, not just for Stanford, please join 6:30 p.m. Next week on the 11th at Newark Memorial High School. Also, the Avanzando scholarships are now available. We have some in the back of the room, and I also know that Member Gutierrez, you're a member of the board for Avanzando. Is there any special message you want to share about this?
It just more importantly that it's a great opportunity for Newark students. So please take advantage of it. We all know universities, colleges, it's expensive. So this is a great opportunity. And just to reiterate the deadline, it is March 13th, and it can either be via email or mail, but it does need to be postmarked by March 13th. So please remember the date. Spread the word to any Newark seniors, please.
Thank you. The next thing I want to highlight is our Family Science Nights. We have, we have a wonderful partnership with certainly our science resource teachers, but also our partners at Don Edwards, East Bay Regional Park District, and also the Water District. And so we have a lot of Family Science Nights coming up, so please be on the lookout for your own calendar, and everyone is invited. Families, please come join us. Recognitions. recognitions are important, but but the point is well taken. I think it's important to highlight, we have Administrators of the Year. So all administrators for Newark Unified are part of AXA, and AXA is for Region 6. So I'm very proud to announce that Miss Akila Bird, principal at Graham Elementary, is for the regional award winner for Region 6 as elementary principal. Wonderful. Ms. Leonor Rebasuda for Central Office Administrator, who oversees our induction and our science program, and Ms. Julie Calderon for Administrator at an alternative ed setting. These folks are represented all of the region of Region 6. So yeah, let's do a round of applause for them. I want to highlight that attendance matters. As you all know, we did great growths on our dashboard, but our work isn't done just because we came out of the red and we went into a higher area of more targeted work. So we have many schools through PBIS, through personal recognitions, really looking at the work that our teachers and our students, and thank you families for sending your students to school each and every day. Global school play. So Birch Grove Intermediate did something pretty revolutionary. So they actually, it came from Ms. Katati, the third grade teacher at BGI, who said there is a regional global school play, which is unstructured time for kids to really expand their horizons and really get to talk and play. And so in the afternoon from right after lunch through the end of the school day, BGI played. And so it was unstructured. Kids got to self-select games and toys, and it was a really wonderful afternoon. And I thank our teachers for really coming up with some very innovative ideas. And thank you to Ms. Catherine Ingham Waters, who was open to it. And certainly I think that's what innovation is, and it's also speaking to the needs of our kids and our teachers. Bayside. We have a great partnership with the Lawrence Hall of Science out of UC Berkeley. So go Bears. And so we already did a shout out to Stanford, but go Bears. And our partnership really highlights the work we do with Lawrence Hall of Science and how the NGSS is something that's important for our kids and the science standards. And so we have a leadership team made up of elementary teachers, secondary teachers, principals, and Ms. Rebasuda and myself. And so we spent a day at Clark Kerr this week and learned with, we have other districts at the table, so we're there with Orinda Unified, Alameda Unified, I believe Manteca, and there's one other district that's not coming to mind right now. But we really do some great work as to how to implement next generation science standards across the district. So I wanted to highlight that work that we're doing. And I think that takes me to the end. So thank you for allowing me to share this and also recognize a lot of the work we're doing. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the update. Next item is our staff report. Back to you.
Yes. So Ms. De La Cruz is going to highlight, we received the letter from the Alameda County Office of Education, and as a result of our qualified budget at first interim, and so she'll share some highlights about that.
Thank you. Back in December, the board approved the qualified certification of our first interim budget, and we received the review letter from the county a few days ago. And few of the areas that they would like for us to look at is, one, because we are declining in enrollment, to make sure that we continue to monitor that and that we have contingencies in future enrollment in case our declines are a lot faster than what's been projected. The other area has to do with deficit spending and our multi-year budget projection. They recognize that in our first interim, we did include 2.1 million deficit, 770,000 deficit in 2021, and then 130,000 in 21-22. So because we've identified, but we haven't implemented reductions in our budget, we need to make sure that those reductions actually do happen and have a plan for that. And also, we did include school closures as part of our budget balancing plan. And if the closures do not happen, then we need to have contingencies in place of that. The other has to do with collective bargaining, and We know that we have not reached agreement at this point, but when we do, we have to submit the forms that will tell the county that we have an understanding of what the impact of the agreement will be. And also, because we did file a qualified certification, that for our second interim report, we have to have our most current enrollment and P2 ADA projections, that they're as accurate as possible. And also, they want us to submit board-approved expenditure reductions and other budget balancing solutions, including a detailed plan and timeline to achieve them. So those are some of the things that we have ahead of us, and hopefully we can schedule maybe a study session or agendize in future meetings and have the discussions around it.
Thank you. And I can add that at the end of the meeting, when we start to look at outgoing meetings, that is going to be some of our proposals to look at some very specific either special meetings or for budget reduction, with the goal of resolutions coming forward with options for you all to vote on.
Sorry, go ahead. Member Zhang?
Oh, I just have a question regarding the enrollment, the letter stated. So I think I'm still a bit confused about our this year, 2019 to 2020 enrollment compared to 2018, 2019. Are we having an increase in enrollment this year compared to last year? Only compared to 18, 19?
At this point, we are declining.
Oh, we're still declining compared to a year ago.
Yes. So the last certified CalPADS was actually at 5,631.
Because I sometimes I get this wrong impression that on some of the numbers that looks like we have higher enrollment compared to last year, or higher than we projected, or.
Yeah, we can look into that, but I think the preliminary numbers that we gave you may have been higher than what was certified.
I see.
So as a reminder and for the public, so at the time of the snapshot for CalPADS, which is October 2nd, those are the numbers we have to go with. And what we could do is certainly part of the budget reductions is that we will bring back some enrollment numbers so that you have kind of more up to date as to what's happening. And if you'd like it sooner, we could look at sending that also to the board.
Okay.
Okay, yes. We'll wait for that. I was going to ask a question, but we'll wait for that. Thank you. Okay. Any other questions on this item? Okay, item 11.2.
So Ms. Dela Cruz will be giving an update of the governor's proposed budget. She was in Sacramento, and then there was a group of us that actually were at the Alameda County Office of Education to also receive that information.
Try to go over these as best as I can. So we attended a couple of workshops related to the governor's proposals for next year. One was in Sacramento for school services. Another was at the Alameda County Office of Education with capital advisors. And as we talk about second interim, we will incorporate a lot of the proposals for the multi-year projections in terms of the 2021 and what we believe is part of the governor's budget. Just keep in mind that this is not final. So overall, the themes for the 2021 governor's budget last year, if you remember, he helped us with a reduction in the employer pension liability by reducing some of the rates that the employers were paying in terms of the retirement. And this year is a little bit more conservative, so we have a few challenges in working with the budget that is being presented. This just shows you where we're at in terms of the national average. As you can see, California is still below the national average in terms of spending per student. the local control funding formula, which is the basis for 90% of our funding. The governor is putting $1.2 billion towards LCFF, which includes 2.29% COLA. So this brings the funding to $64 billion, which is up from 63 in 1920. It is lower than the 3% COLA that they had projected in the 1920 budget, but it's higher than what the Legislative Analyst's Office estimated at 1.79%. So 2.29% is estimated at an increase of about $176 per ADA in the K-3 grade span, if you look at the middle column. And then grades 4 to 6, it's about $179 per ADA. And the grades 7, 8 is $184 per ADA. And 9 through 12 is $214 per ADA in terms of what the 2.9% will look. And then remember, in addition to our base, we get what they call the grade span adjustment, the GSA. It's applied to the K-3 grade span as well as the 9 to 12. In the grade 3, we get an additional $819 per ADA for having smaller average class sizes. And then for grades 9 to 12, we receive another $248 per ADA in recognition of career technical education coursework. We also receive supplemental and concentration grants for our English learners, free and reduced price meal eligible students and foster youth, which is what we call the unduplicated pupil percentage, or UPP. So in the middle column, that is the supplemental grant, and you can see where it ranges from $1,700 per ADA to $1,900 per ADA in the grade span. And then the concentration grant, we get additional funding for the amount over 55%. And right now, our district is just below 56%. It's about 55.8, our UPP. But we get an additional $4,300 per ADA in K3, and almost $4,000 in 4 to 6, and 7, 8, $4,100, and then the 9 through 12, it's $4,896. Significant amounts. So what does this mean in terms of new work? This is a preliminary projection for LCFF. It's about $54.6 million for next year in our LCFF total revenue. That's based on projected ADA of 5,467. So that comes out to almost 10,000 per ADA. Keep in mind that this is based on declining enrollment. So it's only about $300,000 more than what we're getting this year. And with 88 less ADA, that's $880,000 less than what we would have received if we had not been declining. Even if we had stayed the same, it would have been more like 1.1, almost 1.2 million to our district instead of the 300,000. So as you can see, declining enrollment is really impacting our fiscal status. Some good news, special education rates, they're looking at the allocation under Assembly Bill 602, which is a way of allocating the special ed dollars to what they call SELPA. It's like a JPA, and we belong to New Haven, Fremont, and our district. There's 3 districts in our SELPA. So they're looking at providing additional $645 million to the base rates, and this means about $640 to $680 per ADA, and that's it's going to the SELPA, so it really depends on how that JPA SELPA allocates the funding. So at this point, I don't have a ballpark figure of what that means, but it's good news nonetheless, because it will mean additional funding for us. So any additional funding to lower our contribution is always good news. And then for special ed preschoolers, this year we received a little over 400,000, and we will receive about the same for next year. But the caveat for next year is that we would have to show increased or improved services. Again, not sure how that will be monitored or what that will look like. Usually we get that after the governor presents his proposal. The governor is also putting in $900 million of one-time Prop 98 money for professional development, recruitment and retention, and preparation for expanding the classified school employees credentialing program, which is an incentive for our classified employees to get their credential. And again, this is probably going to be per ADA type of allocation. He also has $300 million in competitive grants to establish community school type models. This will be competitive, so it will mean if we're interested in these types of programs, we would have to apply. So you can see that includes mental health, social services, PD, extended learning, and increased family and community engagement, such as home visits. There's $15 million in computer science. These two will probably be competitive. And for the County Office of Education, $2.5 million. This is all in computer science education. Another good news, school nutrition. There'll be increases in funding for school nutrition by an ongoing $60 million. $10 million in one-time training for school food service workers, and a new farm-to-school grant program. Early care and education. The governor is shifting some of the governance in child care and preschool programs by establishing a Department of Early Childhood Development. And facilities, last year there was a budget of $263 million in one-time funds for non-LEAs to build new or renovate existing childcare. So this year, the governor is investing in preschool facilities for school districts. What's not in the budget? No increase in the targets, because we've already reached our targets. No payments to reduce our CalSTRS or our CalPERS costs, and there is no one-time discretionary grants or funding in this budget. So what's next? Stay tuned. There is a May revise, and the final budget approval will be in June 2020.
Member Gutierrez?
Thank you. Just one quick question, Ms. De La Cruz. Just for to get a better understanding, none of this money is guaranteed. A lot of this, we have to apply for it or request it, or there's a process for us to specifically, us as a district, get those funds. Is that correct?
For the grants, such as the community schools, those ones were not guaranteed. But the ones that are per ADA allocation, it's just a matter of how they will create that formula. Mm-hmm. Those will not be competitive.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Member Zhang?
Question regarding the concentration grant. So if I understand correctly, concentration grant is only going to the portion of ADA that's above 55%, right?
Correct.
Okay. And another thing is LCFF doesn't really have any local cost of living adjustment, right?
Local?
What I mean is that when it comes to the base grant, the base grant for one ADA, say in Fremont or Newark, equals to the ADA in, say, Tracy, right? That's what,
Correct.
okay.
Correct. It's statewide, the base grant COLA.
I have a question regarding, so again, I know that the numbers are still in flux, but once, well, I guess it's regarding the competitive portion that's there. So when would we start to, the process of, hey, we know there's a bucket of $300 million out there, when would we start the process, and who in district staff would be responsible for initiating those requests?
So normally we would get an announcement from CDE letting us know when these grants are available. And at that point, then we would work together with Ed Services to look at the grant and figure out the timeline and what we need to do to get some of that funding.
Okay. Would we, when would we get visibility to when those are available, just in the context? Yeah.
Well, as soon as we find out, and we receive the announcement that they're available, we will let you know.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah, and if I can add, the Alameda County Office of Education is a really good partner because we are also, we're small, but we're mighty, right? So a lot of times what the county office will do is do a consortium, and so that they'll also reach out to us. So if you remember the Prop 47 grant that we brought forward, we're at the last stage of that grant, but we partnered with, I believe it was Dublin and Emory. So a lot of times there'll be good partners and actually get the grant writer to help write it, and then we can be a part of it. But we can certainly bring that also back.
Thank you. That's helpful. I mean, again, for many of us who are just going through this process, and so I appreciate you sharing that with us. Any other questions? Okay, I think we're good. Thank you very much. Item 11.3, annual certificated staffing. We have a staff report. And just for consistency, and apologize again as we're trying to get this, what we're going to do is have the presentation and then do the speaker card. I think that's what we did last time. And then we will have a conversation.
Good evening, Superintendent Salinas and members of the board. I'm here tonight to talk to you briefly about the programmatic annual process of certificated staffing. The process has begun where we include the review of all certificated staff currently under Newark Unified School District. We are going to include each certificated employee, and we assess their tenure working in the district. We have different categories that we have to review, one being a permanent employee, two being a probationary 2 employee, 3 a probationary employee 1, 4 an intern, and lastly a temporary teacher. We have currently shared this seniority list already with our staff so that they know where they are in regards to the list, in the seniority list, and which is now opening our next part of the process, which allow us to, per EDCO, allows us to release all temporary teachers that are currently filling positions for people that are on leave. And as always, we will have more information. The process has just begun with the seniority list, and we're getting ready to move forward with the second part of this, which is the temporary release of employees.
And so, if I can add, what I know we heard from the board was it's important to really start to front load for the community and for you all. This is an annual process. It feels like we're letting go teachers, and we want to make sure that there's clarity that that's not what we're doing. What we're doing is what's called the temporary release. So we have a group of teachers who we hired on a 1-year contract. With that 1-year contract, because we have teachers that we have to hold a place for them who may be out on sabbatical or may be out on maternity leave or may be out for different reasons, and then they will be coming back. So we're waiting for them to notice us so that we know how many of these temporary teachers we will call back as soon as possible. And a lot of times, a lot of these temporary teachers become permanent teachers because we also have vacancies. So although the process doesn't feel good, please know that it's an annual process that every district goes through, and we're just trying to accelerate it so that we can bring them back as soon as we can. And the second piece, I think, is as we start to look at the probationary 1 and probationary 2 teachers, that's part of the process where we work with our site administrators to let us know if there is any staff members who will not be returning. And what I do want to recognize is what Ms. Saavedra does is that she works very closely with Mr. Merritt and with NTA so that there's also no surprises there, and the union is involved with that process. So in the next 2 board meetings, as every district in California is doing, because we have this March 15th deadline, we will be going through this process. But please know that we're working with our teachers who are out on leave and hearing from them as to how soon they will let us know if they're returning so that we can bring back temp teachers as we need them. But we want to be able to share that update, and there's no action tonight, and it's just an informational piece. And if you have any questions.
Member Nguyen?
Yes, I have a question in regards to this being an annual part of the process. I also would like to know if you do, during this time, evaluate those temporary teachers and take recommendation from staff as to whether or not they're somebody that we want to hire on permanently.
Absolutely.
And I'm not done. And also, lastly, there are maybe non-certified or certified teachers that are working in different subject matters, maybe at the junior high or the high school, that may have or would like to transfer into different positions. Do you guys evaluate all of that also? Thank you.
Yes. That's correct. The evaluation process has already started, and in fact, there are meetings that are being run by all administrators. Every recommendation is based on observations and evaluations of all the employees before a determination is made.
Sorry, I actually, I'm going to interrupt myself or all of us because I skipped the process that I said we were going to follow, so I apologize, Ms. Bloom. Ms. Bloom, we do have a speaker card for this item, so that was me totally skipping over. I apologize. Ms. Bloom?
No, comment withdrawn. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, please proceed.
And I can also add, I know what, I think part of the process is also with Ms. Saavedra talking to our site administrators, but remember, we also have to follow the process of the contract. So there may be, as we start to promote the vacancies and get that information out, that's when the process starts, which is very complicated because you want to make sure, I think what she did with the first piece was the seniority list. Seniority lists are out, people look to see, is it accurate? The next piece is, as we start to look at temps and all of that, then it opens up to what are the true vacancies. And then internally, we serve our current teachers first and let them first see if there's movement that has to happen within the district. So it's a fairly complicated process, but it's all outlined in our collective bargaining agreement.
Any other questions, comments?
One quick one. Thank you, Ms. Salinas and Ms. Saavedra, for explaining the process to us. And just to avoid any confusion, do we have a clear explanation of this to our staff and teachers as well? That way they're also understand that, you know, even though they're receiving notices, it's just part of the process.
Yes, we follow up with every employee. We follow up with a meeting and we explain the process again, you know, if should they be released from their contract or just the plan. All administrators are aware of the process. We actually just created a Q&A with them to go over the difference of every category and that they understand that if we are having to have these conversations with the employees, they understand what's entailed for them. And again, with the goal to bring temporary teachers back, should we have the positions for them.
Sorry, I have one more question. Yes. So in regards to a comment that Ms. Bloom made earlier,
I do question, like science resource teachers and why we can't have designated ones for each elementary school, especially since, we are pushing for STEAM, and it would highly benefit students to have one solid science resource teacher at school. I mean, I would love to have more than one at a school site, but for her to and other elementary school science teachers to have to be able to, move to different sites and have to actually cover about double this, at least 800 to 1,000 students per year. Is that correct, Ms. Bloom?
I have 500 this year, but
Point of order, it's not the coming back to staff.
Yeah, and I think, certainly as we start to, it's weighing priorities, right? And we start to look at the funding. And right now, what we have with our science resource teachers is they are split between two sites. We know we would love to do more, but again, we have to look at how we look at our funding. So, happening parallel to all of these conversations is our LCAP. And so I know that we had, and Ms. Bloom was here, and we had a lot of folks here that night, but we need more input. And so, and I think the board can also start to surface some of theirs as we start to look, unfortunately, at budget reductions, but we can also look at prioritization at the same time. So let's keep engaging on it, and it's noted.
Actually, so on that note, I didn't have any questions, but that just prompted a question in terms of the prioritization. I think this is kind of my second time going through this, and at least last time, as a board member, I felt there wasn't a lot, I didn't have visibility or a timely visibility to impact that prioritization. So provide us, please, some guidance in terms of when would we expect to have an ability to provide that guidance and prioritization? Is that a fair request? Yes. Any other questions, comments? Okay, moving on to item number 12, employee organizations, CSCA.
Good evening, board members and staff. We don't have, in CSCA, basically in the beginning of the year is when we do a lot of in-service training of our executive board members. And so last month on the 27th, our executive board went to actually Alameda County Office of Ed, where they had a number of different chapters from basically the East Bay, and go in and receive training. And I'm very proud to say that every single board member for CSCA 208 was there. And we participated in not only a dinner together, but about 2 hours of training on how to work together as an executive board. Coming up in February on the 29th is officers training. So again, we've already informed them that we are going as a whole executive board. And this is where they go into in-depth training of the president. So all the presidents are going to meet, all the vice presidents are going to meet, and they're going to be trained in their individual offices. In March, we're going to have our chapter meeting on the 16th, and we're going to actually have an ice cream social so that we have an opportunity for members to come in and just sit and talk, enjoy each other, and to participate later on the chapter meeting. In April, there's going to be a President Institute for CSC. It's going to be at headquarters down in San Jose, and it's going to be a 2-day event only for presidents. So those kind of things are kind of usually done at the beginning of the year. A lot of the chapters elect every year their executive board. Ours goes 2 years, which I think in a lot of ways is an advantage because we've already been working together a year, and so we have kind of the groundwork already going, and it can really go on to some advanced stuff. And so we're lucky to be near our state office, and so we are able to get together and really get some really good training. So that's basically kind of all I have to report at the moment. I'm sure that next month I'll have something new and something different to share with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. NTA?
Good evening.
Hello.
Hi, I'm Megan McMillan. I'm the Vice President of NTA. Just a few highlights. So one, I know that tonight you're adopting a resolution on schools and communities first, and NTA is so happy that you are making the choice to support that. Our members have been gathering signatures for the last few weeks toward getting the schools and communities first initiative onto the ballot. We're also going to be participating throughout the week in the Fund Education Now movement. I know that I've been helping out with that, and then Sunday Farmers Market at New Park. We're going to have some NTA members out there too. In addition, NTA members have really been pulling together to make a public display of how much we believe that Newark students deserve the best. So I'm sure you've seen us out in our red and promoting the things that we are looking for to give our students and our teachers everything we deserve. We also have some big conferences coming up. NTA sponsored a number of teachers to attend the Good Teaching Conference, sponsored by CTA. That's this coming weekend. And then the New Educator Conference, New Educator Weekend, later this month for teachers that have been teaching 5 or less years. They can go and spend a weekend learning the ropes and gaining more skills to make themselves better in their profession. So that's where we're at right now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Numa? Anybody from Numa? Thank you. So moving on to old business. Item 13.1, City of Newark and NUSD licensing agreement with McGregor Field. Superintendent Salinas?
Yes, good evening. We bring forward the McGregor Playfields license, the agreement that we have. At our last meeting with the City School Liaison Committee, with Member Gutierrez and Member Nguyen being there, we were able to draft some final language and had some agreement. So the process is we're bringing this forward for your review and approval, and then after this, we will submit it to City Manager Banoon to take it to the City Council. Thank you.
Do we have any questions from the board?
I just have one comment. I want to thank the city for, it's been a very long process for us to get here. So I want to thank the city for bearing with us and also for agreeing to this. And this last meeting was very productive. So thank you.
Okay, so seeing no more discussion, can I get a motion and a second, please?
I'll make a motion that we pass 13.1.
Member Gutierrez moves, Member Nguyen seconds, and we will have our student member vote.
I vote yes.
Thank you. And board, please vote. So the motion passes with 4 ayes. Thank you, for staff, everybody, for all this work. Thank you so much. Moving on to item 13.2. This is we do have a speaker card on this item. The item is for sorry, I'm taking my jacket off, apologize. For the subcommittee comprised of myself and board member Gutierrez to report back on some follow-up discussion that we had proposed still needed to happen, just to hopefully have all information to form our final opinion on who we'd like to hire. So with that, I'd like to just take a minute to do that report out. And perhaps I can speak about the conversation we had with both firms, and Member Gutierrez, you took the lead, just because I wasn't not as available as I thought in speaking with some other references. So we did speak with both representatives from the firms, from the two different firms, which is I'm blanking out, and I have them right here. McPherson, and then also Leadership Associates. With the conversation was not beyond really what we had discussed, and specifically myself, in terms of some follow-up questions around how do we prevent from a process going sideways. So what are some of the learnings that they've had, and then specifically we'd asked for them to of the list of all the schools that they've supported or districts they've supported, to actually point us to who they thought would be districts that would be similar to us, so that we can engage them and get some references, firsthand references. With Leadership Associates, I believe that was our first call. I think it was, very professional. They basically reviewed quite a bit. Their answers were very similar to what was presented here. We did talk about specifically what happens when the search doesn't go the way you expect. It was not as, there wasn't a whole lot there, frankly. It was one of those, well, that just doesn't happen. And if it does, then we're there, we have a guarantee, and we'll help you search again. But I thought, again, very, very professional gentleman. And then he did give us a couple of districts to reach out to, and Member Gutierrez can speak to that. The second item was, this McPherson and Jacobson. Yes. And we had a really good discussion there. I have to call out just how important they made us feel. The fella, Bill that was here, that presented, was actually traveling in Israel, and made it a point to still make himself available after his dinner to speak to us in our morning. But in his stead, he had already lined up the CEO to speak to us. And so, because he was running a little late, that's who we spoke to. So it just really, I think that made me really feel like they're really structured and organized. We did pose the same question about, so how do we prevent, or hey, what happens, if the process fails? In particular, what I liked about their answer was, they said, look, it's all about transparency. So it's about that collective input from the community, and making sure that there is a true connectivity to the reality of the input sources. So knowing, having expectations for all of us that we all have a role to play, and so being very transparent about what that input's going to be used for. And he said equally important is for us to be very transparent with just what our difficulties are, really. So what would a candidate really be getting themselves into? He said, so that they feel that that's really important. I followed up on a question that you had, Zhang, because when I had seen the video, I didn't think they'd answered the question about the whole, do you go out for look for sitting superintendents that you think are really good fit for us? And his point was, we don't go after folks we've recruited, but absolutely everybody else is fair game. So if we know there's a top-notch superintendent in another district, as long as we didn't recruit them, we're absolutely going to go after them. So I thought that was important. And then they too gave us some recommendations for districts. So I'll hand that over. Yeah.
Thank you. I'll briefly recap my conversations that I had when I did my research, and I will start with McPherson and Jacobson, and they recommended the school district of Albany, and I spoke to the board president there, and What stood out, I would say, was how excited he was to have somebody call and ask about the process. He was very happy with McPherson and Jake, with the firm and the process that they had and how much engagement they had with the community. And he was just so excited that he was able to share that information with somebody else. And they did hire the candidate that McPherson recommended. That he spoke, the board president of the Albany district spoke about the process, which he said he liked the fact that there was a lot of pre-work done to prep for before they actually started the search, which required a lot of community engagement, a lot of community input, a lot of staff and board input. Just to focus on their community involvement. They did parent groups. They spoke with different groups within the community itself to make sure that they targeted each area, district, diversity, etc. And then the interview process. He spoke about the interview process itself, how well organized and what a great process it was. How they learned a lot from each candidate. And were really able to really get a grasp on each candidate and how they would be a fit to the district themselves. They did speak about the breakfast and lunch that the board does have with the final candidates, so they did that as well. I did ask if there was anything that he would do differently. He said no, everything was great, liked everything about it. He liked the diversity of the firm, which helped get a better understanding of their district and provided adequate representation. And then he also emphasized how they received the training for their superintendent during that first year, and they added additional trainings, which was the board training for board cohesion. And from Leadership Associates, they recommended San Lorenzo. We also did get a second feedback from New Haven.
And
Correct.
right, and I could speak
Yes.
to that. So I did speak to the board president at New Haven, and sorry, this was I didn't take notes on that one. I apologize. It was a pretty short visit. But what really, or conversation, what really stood out was the follow-up. When one of the requirements was, we need a person that's going to truly set a plan, a tactical plan, and then execute. And so he talked about how McPherson worked with them to develop that plan, and then obviously provide some training and follow-up support. So that was, I think, what really stood out in terms. They're clearly very happy. Is what they're at least sharing with the person that they hired, but they were very happy with that follow-up and support of the superintendent.
And then in regards to Leadership Associates, they recommended Evergreen Unified and San Lorenzo Unified, and we reached out to both districts and unfortunately did not get a response from either to get a follow-up in regards to their experience.
Okay. So before we have some additional discussion, we do have a speaker card. Ms. Cindy Parks.
First of all, thank you so much for what you just explained, because the item on the agenda was rather confusing, because it said under recommended action, the ad hoc committee will make a recommendation for the board to approve the search firm. And so that had me confused, because then as you read further, it says the board will provide the ad hoc committee with further direction regarding acquiring additional information from the firms. So I appreciate the explanation and that you've cleared all that up. And I appreciate the transparency in sharing all of this with the community so they know what steps have been taken, the conversations that have been had. And yes, I've heard New Haven is very happy with their current superintendent also. Thank you.
Thank you. Point well taken on the English, if you will. We'll work on that. Thank you. So opening it up to the board for questions, comments. We did say at the last meeting that we would look to make a decision on who we'd hire today. Any questions? Yep, oh, Member Nguyen.
I'd like to ask, how long ago was their search, and how well are the current superintendents that McPherson has appointed or helped get appointed? How long have they been superintendents in those respective schools, districts?
I know it's very recent. Albany is, I know that they're both very similar. I didn't know that. Okay, sorry, this year, so, sorry. They know better than me. I'll stop talking.
Did they give us any references for any other districts that have had their superintendents be appointed for longer than 1 or 2 or 2 to 3 years?
So they provided a list in the book. We'd have to go back and do more research to see who's been there longer.
Right. So they initially had said, I think any one of them on the list, and we said, no, we specifically want to, talk to someone who would understand our conditions. Their point was, honestly, anyone in the East Bay specifically, I mean, a lot of districts in California are going through a lot of the same issues, but because, these districts are right in our neighborhood, that they thought that might be the most representative.
I would agree that they're most representative, but I want to know if, because of the situation, and they're only been there for such a short time, do they have the experience and knowledge? I mean, are they filling the positions with people who are knowledgeable to be able to carry through, the challenges that we are facing? That's basically my concern.
Right. Right. And the only guidance we have there is what the boards are telling us. So.
Yeah, and so far for both is that they're very happy currently with their superintendents. So.
Okay. Thank you.
So,
yeah, Member Zhang?
During the presentation, I believe McPherson said they did 2 searches for New Haven in the past 2 years. Is that true? So they're...
I don't recall, to be honest with you. Yeah.
And did either of the firm, particularly McPherson, did they say what are they going to... Are they helping the board with compensation package with the superintendent? Or is the board, they just completely give to the board to decide compensation?
I can add to that. But that comes back to the direction that we provide. So they did specify that they will help us with the language in regards to the ad, I would say, sorry. And then in regards to the contract and compensation, that is something that they can work with us, but it's at the direction of whatever we want, the direction we provide.
Yeah. Once we engage, whomever we engage, then those are the direction and the specific items we would let them know we'd need their help with. Okay. Yes, Ms. Aquino?
So there is a concern from the community as far as the title of this agenda item, Superintendent Search Firm Selection Process, and stating that you want to take a vote choosing your firm. I guess stating, because it says it's the process, I thought you're picking the firm as part of your process, but I don't know how you want to address the concern from the community.
Right. We, this is not the ad hoc committee, and that's the part of the language I agree that it's not very neat. We did talk about, it's an action item. We did have it listed as an action. I think in full transparency, we set as an expectation. I would not want to delay the decision. Because of, verbiage, I think that we were transparent, and anyone interested could certainly look at the video from the last meeting to see that. Yes?
I did want to make a point, because I think if we are, one thing about voting on the firm today is that we don't have the contract ready. So because the fiscal, we already said there's a fiscal impact that, but on this one, that we say so we proceed with the firm, might very well have the cost and the contract there about this is the duration, this is how much we're going to pay.
Wait.
So I would recommend, given next week we have what are we going to have a special board meeting? Maybe we'll add add an item to that board meeting with the contract out there. So.
If I can add to that, I think some of the discussion with this was bringing two contracts forward. How can I say this? The idea was to pick a firm and then bring the contract forward for us for review. So, because they I believe the idea was if we bring two contracts forward, we're going to be setting a double expectation. So at this point, we would set the process to move forward with one firm so they could provide us with the contract, and then that comes back to the board.
So we do have I'll address that point because I think we did talk about it at the last meeting, but student member Castillo.
Thank you, President. Thank you, President Martinez. What I understood from this agenda item was that we would be, and as the discussion went on, was that the board would express an interest in one firm over the other, and then we would request a contract to be evaluated at the next board meeting. In my view, that makes more sense rather than have like two competing contracts and then bickering over which one's more acceptable or which one's more appealing. I think that's more productive, so we can get rolling on this.
You said it much better than we did, that was the intent that we set at the previous meeting. So apologize that again that our verbiage wasn't as clean as we would have liked to. But in full transparency, this is what we said we would like to do. So. From that perspective, I would like us to move forward in making a decision. Who do we prefer? We have got, in the information that they provided, we have an idea of the cost that we're looking at. Of course, the contract we would come back and discuss in full transparency before we take a vote. Okay. So having said that, do we have a motion from one of the, and I need some guidance here on my verbiage, Superintendent Salinas. I apologize, I'm always telling you when I'm not 100% sure here, but in the context of, with all the feedback that we provided, does any one of you can any one of you make a motion to select one versus the other?
Oh, I just want to make.
And bring back the contract for review and approval.
I just want to make a comment. I think in the previous meeting I stated my preference for leadership associate, but given the feedback and whatever the reference check we've done, I'm actually, if the rest of the world want to pick McPherson, I'm fine with that choice.
And then I guess with that, I would like to set a motion that we select McPherson Jacobson as the firm that we will go out and request a contract for them to provide for us.
Okay. Okay, so Member Gutierrez motions to select McPherson Jacobson as the search firm that we will request a contract from, and Member Nguyen seconds. Whoa, that was a tough language there. So in this instance, does a student board member vote? No? Is it personnel? Okay. Thank you.
It's not a.
It's a
contract.
It's a contract. It's a vendor.
It's a vendor. It's not a personnel.
I assume it would be like the same.
He
it's a contract, just like the licensing agreement's a contract.
You're right.
I mean, that's my take on it.
Students will have an opportunity to give their feedback when they have the meetings and the interviews with the agency.
Okay. You okay?
So no vote then? Okay.
No vote. Thank you. Thank you for the clarity. So let me open voting here. And please vote. So the motion passes with 4 ayes. Thank you very much. So moving on to new business, resolution number 256, Schools and Community First Funding Act?
Yes, thank you. So this is a really exciting time, and I think really speaks to the collaborative spirit that Alameda County Office is putting forward, but also our labor partners with NTA, CSEA, and also our administrators group of NUMA, and our board. So as a little bit of background, and we've heard a little bit about this, this is Fund Education Now Week, and we've had a lot of social media blasts. You have marquees. Tomorrow, I will be doing coffee with the superintendent if families want to come out, so we'll be hosting that here. I know we've got a couple of ELACs meetings coming out to the district tomorrow. And the bottom line is that we want to really share that we want to give more to our teachers and to our staff, but we also need the governor and the governor's office to provide us with more funding. That's the bottom line. So thank you to NTA and the signature campaign that they're doing to bring this forward and get it on the ballot. And so tonight we bring this forward, and I know a lot of us will be at the farmers market on Sunday trying to also get some signatures. So we bring forward this resolution for your approval.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? No? With that, can I get a motion and a second to approve the recommended resolution number 2056?
I move that we approve the resolution.
I second. So Member Gutierrez moves, President Martinez seconds. Please vote. Oh, sorry, student.
I vote yes.
I'm so sorry, thank you. Member Zhang? Thank you. The motion passes with 4 ayes. Thank you. So it is usually customary that we read it, yes. So can we start with you, student member Castillo?
Okay. Resolution number 2056, Schools and Communities First Funding Act. Whereas since the passage of Proposition 13 in 1978, school funding in California has experienced severe limitations in what was once the main source of funding for schools, the property tax.
Whereas while the intent of Proposition 13 is to help homeowners, a loophole in the system permits major commercial and industrial properties to avoid regular reassessment, providing a windfall of commercial property owners at the expense of vital school funding.
Whereas the share of the property tax burden has shifted away from commercial property and toward residential properties throughout the state and in virtually every county.
Whereas per pupil support, which relies on state funding, has declined from the top 10 in the nation to the bottom quarter.
Whereas school funding in California is $2,400 per pupil less than the national average and $10,000 below the top funded states, while California's cost of living is among the highest in the nation.
Whereas staffing ratios for teachers, guidance counselors, librarians, and administrators in California rank at the bottom in the nation.
Whereas public schools in California face challenges in providing an equitable and fair education for a student population with vast differences in language, income, parental education level, and other social, educational, and economic factors.
Whereas research has proven that investments in high-need students raises achievement levels, lowers poverty, and increases the productivity of the workforce.
Whereas estimates by academic researchers at the University of Southern California, USC, have identified that reassessing commercial property will raise $12 billion in property tax revenue every year for local schools, cities, and counties.
Whereas USC has identified that nearly 80% of the revenue will come from just 8% of large properties.
Whereas USC research shows that a majority of commercial property owners already are assessed at close to market value, making the current system inequitable among businesses, benefiting a relatively small number of properties owned by the largest corporations and wealthy owners who have held land for a long period of time.
Whereas the current failure to close the commercial property loophole has led to poor land use and inflated land values, particularly limiting the ability to provide adequate high-density housing and land use.
Whereas the Schools and Local Communities Funding Act is on the November 2020 ballot. whereas the measure provides about 4.5 billion annually for K through 14 schools.
Whereas the measure will provide funding to all the school districts over and above Proposition 98 funding and following the local control funding formula to all students in need in all districts.
Whereas the Schools and Local Communities Funding Act will also provide billions in funding yearly for cities, counties, and special districts and locally controlled venues for affordable housing, parks, libraries, emergency responders, health and human services, libraries, and public infrastructure.
Whereas the Schools and Local Communities Funding Act will improve land use, provide a direct tax break to small businesses, and level the playing field between neighboring commercial property owners. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Newark Unified School District endorse the School and Communities First Funding Act for a ballot measure in November 2020.
Very good, thank you. Let me see, where am I here? Consent agenda, personnel items. Staff recommends the board approve the personnel report as presented. Can I get a motion and a second?
I make the motion?
I second.
Member Gutierrez moves. Member Nguyen seconds. Sorry, let me open voting. Please vote. Motion passes, 4 ayes. Consent agenda, non-personnel items. We do have a speaker on one item. 16.4, the warrant report, so we will pull that item. Can I get a motion and a second to approve 16.1 through 16.9 less the warrant report?
Warrant being 16.4?
16.4, yes.
I move that we vote on item 16.1 through 16.9, except for 16.4.
I second.
Member Gutierrez moves. Member Nguyen seconds. This is consent agenda, non-personnel items.
Okay. I vote yes.
Thank you. And open voting. Motion passes to approve items 16.1 through 16.9, less 16.4, which is the warrant report. And we do have a speaker card on this item. Ms. Rachel Bloom.
So I've rearranged like my whole life schedule. So like, I was like ready for Tuesday meetings where like, that was my life.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And now it got changed. So like, I'm going to get my money's worth. Like for real, like no joke. So while I was preparing for the meeting, I thought it'd be fun to look at the warrant report. And so here are a few highlights. Check 512-84551 was $27,148 worth of HVAC repairs. And we all know my history with the HVAC system, so I'm not going to say any more on that. Another check was for $33,235.26 worth of water for 1 month. That's a lot of money. And then there was another check for $15,713.27 for water. So that's almost $49,000 worth of water in 1 month. It made me think of all the leaky faucets I have in all my classrooms. So I've had faucets that I've reported that haven't gotten fixed. I've had faucets that are leaking that I still haven't reported. So I'll probably get to reporting that soon so we can save some money on water. And then there was another $11,000 on HVAC repairs. So in 1 month, it's been over $38,000 in HVAC repairs. And I couldn't help being stoked for the HVAC company guys' kids, because like they are set for college now. Like their college fund is full. And then I couldn't help but wondering, like, Too bad, like, we don't have smaller class sizes because here in NUSD, because then I could help teach our students and prepare them for college or the correct technical program of their choice. And then I also noticed $2,415.25 worth of legal fees, and then another one for $4,475.50 worth of legal fees. And then I was just thinking, whenever I hear the district's being sued, especially due to a special education matter, I always wonder, like, why don't we just do things the right way? Like, for example, appropriately staffing special education classes with the appropriate number of para-educators, then we wouldn't get sued so much. And then there was another expense for $27,053 worth of contracted special education services. And then I was thinking, well, we shouldn't have to contract out for special education services. We should offer a competitive salary that attracts and retains quality special education teachers. And we should support special education teachers by providing them with manageable caseloads, class sizes, and appropriate levels of paraeducator staffing. And then there were $620.23 worth of Scantrons purchased. And then I couldn't help but thinking, if I was at Graham full-time, I'd have time to provide technology training to other teachers because I'm a Google Certified Educator Level 2, and then we could save money on Scantron forms because Google Forms are free. And then the last one I guess I'll talk about, since I'm running out of time,
Yes.
is $840 was spent on video equipment for school board meetings. And I gotta say, that is money well spent because people are watching. I know because my colleagues talk to me after meetings. They thank me for having a voice for them. And I also thank you for being patient with me and listening to my voice. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, oh, this is a new section. Oh, that's true. So can I have a motion, unless there's any questions or comments regarding 16.4, can I get a motion and a second to approve warrant report for January 2020?
I move that we vote on the warrant report for January 2020.
I second.
Member Gutierrez moves, Member Nguyen seconds. Student Board Member Castillo?
I vote yes.
Thank you. Please vote. Motion passes with 3 ayes. Thank you. Member Bowen didn't, Member Zhang, it's getting late for me, did not vote. He had stepped away. So just to make a record of that. Thank you, Ms. Aquino. Next item is future meetings, upcoming meetings, and proposed study sessions. Superintendent Salinas.
Yes, we wanted to be able to start to front load what's coming up as we're just doing our planning. So our next regularly scheduled meeting will be on February 20th. And we're looking at that time to bring our comprehensive school safety plans for the board to review and approve. And then also March 5th, the subsequent regularly scheduled board meeting, we will have Mr. Tom Hansen, the superintendent of Mission Valley ROP. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Regarding the comprehensive school safety plan, will that be the first time we're seeing that? Yeah.
Yes, it will, and this is actually a revision, so these are an update. Last year, I think it was a little bit more of because it was the first time that we had done them, there was a little bit more background and time to review. With this, there will be updates, and we also need them approved at this meeting because by Ed Code, we have to have them by March.
Any questions or comments? Okay, moving to item 18, Board of Education Committee Reports, Announcements, Requests. We'll start with you.
Thank you. So rocketry, one team is extremely close to qualifying. I'm not sure if no, at this time last month they were not, they had not done their 3-point launch yet, but their one team is currently at 3 points. The best possible score you can get is 0, and we are expecting that the top 100 teams will be within the single digits. So that team is looking very close to qualifying, and we hope that we can see their qualifying score hopefully by the beginning of March. Robotics ended their season in the end of January. They did not qualify for the regional tournament, but they were working really hard the entire season. This was the most organized that I've seen it. At least what I've heard from my peers. I don't participate in rocketry or in robotics, but they are now working on training current freshmen to get more acquainted with their robotic systems. They're also doing more networking with companies. They were being assisted by Triple Ring Labs or Triple Ring Technologies, I forget the name, but they were working with them, and an employee from there was actually helping them test their robot to make sure that everything was working as intended. So they were getting major help there. They've been working really hard, so hopefully the team next year can make it to regionals. With that being said, both of those clubs will be at all of the family science nights. We have, at least for rocketry, we have members already signed up to go. So we'll be launching our small rockets, our beginner kid-friendly rockets that go about 150 to 200 feet. But it's always fun for the kids too. So the kids themselves get to press the button to launch the rocket and everything. So it's really cool for them to see the rocket and then go chase after it. It's really fun. So you guys should come check it out. At least one of them. It's always fun. And then a more personal announcement is I will be serving as a poll worker for the primary election on March 3rd. I encourage, if you know of anybody between the ages of 16 and 18, I know the College and Career Center at Memorial is working very hard to recruit people, but Newark is in need of poll workers, or of student poll workers and poll workers in general. So I know I'm doing my part to fill that gap. I served in the midterm election in November 2018. This is my second time doing it, and I strongly recommend it for any student. It's a really great experience to be part of the civic and democratic process. I believe that's it. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Member Nguyen.
I just wanted to turn on my mic. I just wanted to also remind parents, teachers, and the community who would like to be involved in the school consolidation to please submit your application. I think the last day is tomorrow. We would love more community outreach in this process, and any input anybody would like to contribute is welcome and much appreciated. Thank you.
So a couple of weeks ago, I did go to the Ohlone College to see you guys launch rockets. One of the launches, I probably saw one of the best launches you had for a while.
Yeah.
390.
You were there for the 3-point launch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so 396 feet altitude, only 4 feet away from the, only 4 feet away.
It was 796.
Oh,
yeah.
797.
797, I think.
Yeah, but 3 or 4 feet away from the ideal.
It was really close.
That was pretty cool. And I do want to follow up on the item we discussed on the Measure G study. I think given the Superintendent Salinas and our CBO have been in this position for less than a year, it might be worth going back several years to dig up whether we really have full-time employees that work on the Measure G fund without getting reimbursed. Because we are potentially talking about some big numbers, not like 20,000, 30,000. We might, if this is really a 7-year process.
Hang on one sec. I'm sorry. Excuse me to the community members. Can you please step outside if you need to talk? We can't really hear clearly. Thank you.
Yeah, because we really have, say, even 1 or 2 employees working on that full time for 7 years. We might be talking about, I mean, in the wildest case, we might talk about erasing this year's deficit with this reimbursement. Ideally, I mean, in the wildest case. So that's Measure G study. The other thing is, given that we're about to entering the new registration period, and many new parents in our community are thinking about whether to send their kids to our district, it was recently brought to my attention about one BGP parent talking about she has a kid in the TK, 5 years old kid, TK. She was telling me she went through the website last year 5 times to submit the registration form. Only once the website went through. And she went to the district office asking for what are the things that she needed. And she didn't get all the forms at once, so she went back and forth to the hospital to get her kid's birth certificate and other document. And she went back and forth 3 weeks just to gather all the document needed to register her kid. And she was saying she cannot imagine a person who is not fluent in English doing this in like a span of 1 or 2 months. And she has friends living in the Prima development. I think they were all sort of in the group of thinking about sending their kids to the TK and also the elementary in BGP. This is primarily a Prima BGP group, but I assume that if this hiccup in the registration will probably affect most of the new parents going on. So I do want to see how we can sort out this registration process.
Thank you. Member Gutierrez?
I would love to first congratulate Josue Romo, who is my nephew and now an ASB officer, as well a graduating senior of Samantha Gutierrez, who is also part of ASB. And I'm glad that my family is continuing to be involved with our school. Our school leadership, yes. I would like to piggyback with what Member Nguyen said of how important it is to have members of our community please join the School Consolidation Advisory Committee. It is very important that we get your input, and it's very much needed. It's the main voices that we really need to hear. So it's a very difficult time that we're facing as a district, and these are difficult positions and decisions that we have to make. So we really, really, really need your input. Please spread the word to parents, business owners, anybody that lives in Newark. We really need all your input. So please participate. And then also I would like to again reiterate the 2020 scholarship application for Avanzando. Recipients will receive a minimum of $1,000. It could be more, and there will be plenty of scholarships to give out. Again, all Newark seniors, and the deadline is March 13th. It's a Friday, and you can email applications to avanzando.newark@yahoo.com or mail it in. Please pick up an application and spread the word if you know anybody that would benefit from this. And again, also just remind the community about the farmers market and New Parks, which will be Sunday from 9 to 1. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So before I forget, tomorrow is the Sweetheart Dance for the Birch Grove schools at the high school dining commons. So we will be there dancing, and we can, go buy some snacks. That's how we raise money for the PTC raises money. I do have quite a few items around the committees. One is we, as part of the training, that we had in December, we talked about some board governance modifications that we probably need to go back and revisit our governance handbook, and also protocols. Back in the fall, board member Gutierrez and myself were assigned to a subcommittee to work on the handbook, and we just haven't done it, with just a bunch of other things on the docket. But I did want to bring that back. I wanted to open that up to either of you, Member Nguyen or Member Zhang, if you wanted to be as part of that. Otherwise, I would just then bring it up that Member Gutierrez and I would need to start the process of making some modifications with a priority based placed on the actual. Now I'm blanking out on the on the protocols, not the governance handbook, because my understanding, or our understanding based on the training, is they are two different documents. So with the priority being on the protocols that we'd bring back for approval here, and then obviously continuing some modifications to the handbook. So are either of you wanting to be part of that, or should we assume?
I can help. I kind of already was when we were reviewing it. I had already started making changes to it.
Okay.
So yeah, I can help with that.
Okay. Member Gutierrez?
I can
So,
continue, yeah.
okay, so, so Member Gutierrez and Member Nguyen will take the lead on the handbook and protocols and bring back for approval. The next committee is the Godby Survey Committee. I know, Member Zhang, I know that it's been a little bit more difficult than you expected to be able to join some of those calls. So I believe we're going to open it up to the rest of the board members if they'd like to fill the second position. Right now, Member Gutierrez is on that committee. So, the Godby, the bond survey. So either you'd like to take that one, or I could take that one. I'll take that one. So I will be the second member on the Godby survey, and we'll have to work with you on calendaring that. I don't know what the okay, and the timing expectations as well. Finally, there is I would like to bring to the board and get your, I'm not sure, this is not an action per se, but just a consensus around forming a communications committee. I know that we had talked about it, and specifically, I think it was just kind of a very conceptual idea some months ago that was brought up. Specifically, where the objective of this committee would be a subcommittee, 2 board members working very closely with Superintendent Salinas, and this committee would generate a summary, probably initially once a month. After each meeting, here's a summary of all the topics that were discussed, kind of things that are coming up, just as a way to begin to be more proactive in how we communicate to our community. So, assuming that is something that you all can support, I would like a couple of folks that are interested, a couple members to sign up to be part of that subcommittee.
I'll do it as well.
Okay, so Member Nguyen and Member Gutierrez will be working closely with you. And that's the last one. I did want to just announce that there's 3 of us that will be in all-day training sessions tomorrow and Saturday in Oakland in the Masters of Governance training, hoping that we learn to be better board members and hopefully really drive a more structured approach and to really get some traction. And we were all in this together. We all are suffering the same pain points, maybe in different ways, but we're all very, very committed to finding a path forward. So at least these next couple of days, we're really looking forward to everything we're gonna be learning. So thank you very much for being here. Member Superintendent.
Yes, so I have no other comments other than to remind everyone that there is no school on Monday. I know Mr. Castillo remembers, Ms. Bloom remembers, so no school on Monday. But also thank you everyone for all the hard work. It feels, January was a long month, but I think we're getting a lot accomplished, and I want to appreciate the board for continuing to keep us focused. Thank you.
And with that, can I get a motion and a second to adjourn?
I move we adjourn the meeting.
Member Zhang moves. Member Nguyen seconds. Please. Oh, Student Member Castillo, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Please vote. And motion passes. Meeting adjourned, 9:08. Thank you.